You really think you want peace, but what you're doing is you're choosing chaos. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. So, what happens in this process is it's so familiar for us to be in pain that it feels safer than the unfamiliar peace. And most of us don't know what peace looks like, feels like, tastes like, the experience of it. It's not an experiential type of situation we've ever been in of peace. And when we start to break this down, we don't even realize that we're chasing something we don't know what is. So it could slap us in the face, like I've said before, and we wouldn't even know. Because your nervous system doesn't just register good versus bad. It actually, what it's registering is familiar versus unknown. So, how would it know peace if it's not what you experience? Like, if you grew up in chaos, unpredictability, emotional abandonment, like all of these different things, like this becomes your baseline of normal. Like, that becomes your familiar versus unknown, not necessarily good versus bad, which is why you keep seeking it out, which is why and keep seeking out chaos in relationships or in your business or just in your life or even in your thought cycles. It doesn't even have to be external. It can be your internal thought cycle that's always going to go and be geared towards a sense of chaos or unpredictability or some emotional turmoil that you have. And because peace is going to feel very foreign, it's going to be feel very boring and uncomfortable and even threatening because your body doesn't trust it. And so your body's never going to be able to just be at peace because your mind and your body are going to look for what it knows. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, this is how the subconscious brain works. So you think that you're making these like very conscious choices, but you're not. It's your body leading. It's your subconscious mind. It's the remembrance in your body. And what happens more than I can even remotely describe in clients are like, I don't know why I keep ending up here. I don't know why I keep making this choice, even though I'm so aware. And it's this realization that your body is what's pulling you back. It's your feelings and your emotional state that pulls you back, not your conscious mind. It's a subconscious mind that triggers the physical reaction in your body. So the subconscious mind is always going to seek that the thing that it knows, right? The familiarity, and it will recreate old patterns even when they hurt, even when the conscious mind says, what the hell are we doing, right? Why do we keep doing this? Why do we keep experiencing this? How many times do I have to beat this whole situation over and over and over until I finally get it? And that's why people self-sabotage. That's why they stay in unhealthy relationships. That's why they overreact in peaceful moments. That's why they get a little peace and they're sure in the heck going to cause some chaos either externally or internally. And so it's one of these things that you have to truly recognize that your body is defaulted towards that. And another big aspect of this is people oftentimes they mistake their trauma responses for their intuition because your body is responding. And what did we just talk about? Well, your body is always going to go to what's familiar. So when you say things like, oh, well, I just felt like something was off, a lot of times that's actually not intuition. Sometimes it is, don't come at me, whatever. But what we're talking about here is when it is actually a trauma response, when it is a response from your body because something very familiar or very unfamiliar is on the horizon, and your body can't do that because if the piece is unfamiliar, you will label it as wrong or too good to be true, or we're going to wait for the other shoe to drop. You're always going to be looking for the disruption. You're always going to be looking for that. And that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're looking for disruption, you'll find disruption. That's exactly what the self-fulfilling prophecy is, because that is what you know. And you're always going to find it and create it and lean towards it. So you always get to experience it. Lucky you, right? But we can start to move out of that. And the real key here is when we start to discern that true inner knowing versus our fear-based projections and our fear-based protection as well. And so we start to get really, really clear on this. And it's not just about the awareness. That's where most people miss that mark. They just think, if I just become more aware, then I can make different choices. And yes, that is true. But this healing, this redoing is not just about choosing better. It's about when you make a choice, you detach from what your body feels. So it's like teaching your body that peace is safe, if that's what we're talking about, or that opportunity is safe. It's also about using your mind to then teach your body that. It's detaching from what your body feels and what your brain says to be true and not putting those two things together. So that means we have to practice stillness. We have to notice when you want to create chaos, and that pausing at that choice point to say, what do I want? What am I doing? Where is this coming from? How is this being led? Is this because I want to keep this perpetual cycle of chaos? Or is it because I want to change and I want something new and I want to lean into the discomfort of what comes with calm and silence and peace, right? Instead of running from it, because you really don't realize how deeply ingrained this is for you. So the shift always has to start with awareness, but it requires that nervous system repatterning, which is what the TRM is, which is why I always go back to the trigger response method, is because you always go from your trigger to a different response. And you start to catch that pattern in the moment. And when you create the drama, when you pick the fights where you feel bored, when you're calm, and so you go create, 16 other things, which is totally my ML. It's not just being able to always set in the stillness and the silence without creating something. And so it's like, when we notice that, what do we do instead? How do we pull back from that? How do we name it as a familiar pattern, not our truth, and identify with it? How do we begin to practice this difference and this shift in the regulation within ourselves and the repatterning and programming without bringing on more shame or guilt? What does that look like? Because you can have that peace without the external world changing. You don't have to keep creating chaos in the external world and then be okay with it because it's familiar. You also don't have to wait until your world is non-chaotic, because guess what? Life's going to life. Sometimes it life's in an easy way and sometimes it life's in a hard way. So you don't have to wait until we're in the ease to feel at peace, because that's not true peace. That's just, hey, there's no one's rocking your boat. That's not real peace, right? So by doing this work and by being aware of this and by recognizing when you're geared towards this level of chaos, you can say, I'm geared towards that. I'm rocking my own boat. I'm rocking my own boat. I don't have to do that anymore. I can choose not to. I can see my patterns. I can start to rewire them, and I can realize I'm actually in control. I saw this video the other day of this little girl, and she had a water hose in her hand, and somebody had sprayed her with like a water gun. And so the water gun hit her, and she bent down to protect herself from the water gun. And then she started screaming, telling them to stop, because she was getting hit in the face with the water. And she was holding the water, like she was holding the water hose, spraying herself in the face, and she thought it was somebody else. And the mom's like, you're holding the water hose. And that was like a whole thing. And what I really recognized with that, in the familiarity, how it was so resonant with myself and clients and just people, human nature, is that there was an external event. You have to remember, she did get hit in the face from an external source that was not hers. She did not shoot herself in the face with a water gun, but then she held the hose there. Then she had the chaos. And then the choice was to stay in this of our self choosing. And so this is what we're talking about. And if you want to learn how to break this down more, I have an entire audio course, 10 audios that walk you through exactly this, how to become emotionally unstoppable. So you're not holding your own water hose. It's an amazing, amazing program that you get to walk through in kind of like podcast style. So it's really digestible as well, but you'll start to get a little bit more clear on what this looks like for you in a very systematic way. Highly recommend it, because when we start to choose our peace, we start to change and rewire our entire experience. So I would love that for you. I'll drop the link down in the comments for you to dive into that. If you have any questions about this, your comments, what resonates with you, please drop it below. And I'll talk to you guys next week.